It's New Bedford Connections, where we meet prominent people from the greater New Bedford area. Now here's your host, Paul Santos.
Welcome to New Bedford Connections. This is going to be a fun half hour this time around. We're meeting a gentleman whose voice is on the radio every single day. He interacts with people in the community. A lot of people know him as a cab driver because he uses that name sometimes, Brian the Cab Driver. We welcome to New Bedford Connections, Brian Thomas of Brian's Beat on WBSM. Brian, thanks for stopping by New Bedford Connections.
Thanks for having me, Paul. Nice seeing you again.
Yeah, it's nice seeing you. You know, this is great. Brian the Cab Driver, Brian's Beat. I mean, it's all the same thing, right?
Let's really go back to how you and I know each other. Youth soccer. That's where we first met. Our two sons were out there running around like bees, trying to chase the ball down.
Well, I saw you at the field, but my kids actually didn't play soccer, it's baseball, but that's all right.
Okay.
But I do remember you in the field.
What were you doing at the field?
Yeah, but anyway, Brian Thomas is here. We're going to learn a lot about Brian, about his career in radio and cab driver and so forth. New Bedford Connections is the name of the show. He's here in New Bedford now, but it didn't start in New Bedford for you, did it?
No, it started in Chicago, actually.
My kind of town?
Yeah. But New Bedford or Chicago?
Well, both.
Chicago's where I was born. I had no say over that.
All right.
We lived there until September of '62.
Mm-hmm.
My mom was transferred to Natick Labs, a scientist, and we moved to Massachusetts, Waltham, for a few years, and then pretty much settled in Framingham.
Right, and you ended up as a Massachusetts person pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah.
And schooling, you ended up high school, college?
Yeah, I did that. They made me. Graduated from Framingham North High School in 1974.
All right, so people can figure out your age now. Just kind of
that's
add it up,
all right.
You know,
and then I went to, if they see some of the pictures I have, they'll be able to figure it
yeah,
out
right,
too.
Exactly.
I went to North Adams State College, graduated from them from there in 1979.
Fantastic. And I know you were a specialty in English, is that right?
Yes.
English communications?
Actually started as a business major. I fell in love with the radio station. I was looking for communications. The only thing that they had was communications concentration through English.
Right.
So that's how I ended up
So you
getting
did the
my
college
degree.
radio station thing.
I did.
You know, anybody that you ever see on television or radio, like myself, like you, Joe Cabral, I mean, we could go on and on. We all kind of started in the college radio station, right?
It was, they don't do that as much anymore
Yeah, I know.
because you've got the internet and whatnot. But
Yeah.
that was the breeding ground for a lot of people. Ask Howard Stern.
You know, I used to do a funk show, and we would throw down the bad jams, you know what I mean? And it was pretty like one of these things, you know? So that goes way back there anyway. But you got to start somewhere, right? But anyway, so then after that, you've pretty much been in radio your whole life? I
have. It took, after you graduate, you think that you're king of the world.
You thought you were king of the world?
Oh, sure. I thought, I've got a degree now. Give me the job.
Yeah.
It took for about, I want to say 6 or 7 months before I actually landed my first radio gig.
Right.
But give or take those times that you get fired or you quit a job, I've been in the business.
So how many radio stations have you worked
You
for?
don't want to know.
It would take too long
Listen,
to list them all?
I have less groceries in the cart than I have radio stations under my belt. But I'm proud to say that I've gone coast to coast, border to border, West Coast border anyway,
Yeah.
small to major market, and nationally syndicated.
No kidding, all over the country, huh?
All over that was the plan.
Yeah.
That
Well, you got to do a lot of traveling if you really want to,
Yeah, but most people will travel within their sphere. They'll travel New England.
Yeah, right.
I wanted to go back out to California. I'd visit there for a while, and I said, yeah, I'd like to come back out here. And I had some good ratings out of Springfield, and I said, let's try to ride the wave. And I went out there. Took a few weeks, but I got a job, and I stayed out there for 7 years, give or take the 1 year, up in Seattle.
So you worked in Springfield, Massachusetts station,
I did.
and then you went to California.
Correct.
What part of California did you go to?
What part didn't I go to? I started in San Francisco,
Yeah.
made my way down to San Diego, then up to Santa Barbara where I really wanted to be. Then from there, I got sick of the weather always being too nice. I know it sounds
Sick
odd.
of the weather being too nice.
Really?
Wow.
You know,
Yeah, you know,
when
it's
you
sunny
grow
every
up,
day. It gets boring.
it does.
Yeah.
So, and not only that, the temperature was really pretty much 60s, 70s. I needed a change.
Yeah.
And I said I always wanted to go up to Seattle. So my then girlfriend and I, we drove up to Seattle. We liked it. I had a couple of interviews, got a call, you want to come work up here? And I did.
So you worked in radio stations in all those locations?
Except I did some stringer work in San Diego,
Right.
but in all the others, yes.
Now we know you from WBSM, basically a talk show. We'll get to that in a few minutes. But in all these other locations, I mean, did you play music? Did you do different types of shows?
I was doing music until I left Santa Barbara.
So you were like
Actually, no, I did music up in Seattle, but then I transitioned to news.
right. So what kind of music did you play? Was it like a top 40
My
station?
forte, no, I couldn't do
Classic
that.
rock?
I can't go talk 40
Yeah, I was
like
going to
that.
say like, hey.
I prefer what's now known as classic rock.
Right.
Back when I started, it wasn't too classic at the
Not
time.
yet.
And then, of course, you get your adult contemporary because there are plenty of those.
Right. That's
type
what
of
I did. I
stations
did
out
adult
there.
contemporary around here back in
Yeah.
the 80s, you know.
Well, and that's what you had.
Yeah, yeah, right.
And cat country. I guess.
You have the voice, I think, for the adult contemporary, you know, like, you know, kind of soothing and, you know.
Well, I can do smooth jazz
Yeah,
too.
right.
But yeah. And I do like jazz.
Yeah,
But
right.
the smooth jazz, I don't know that I could get away with.
Well, we like to have guests bring pictures so that we can kind of tie their story together. So this is unusual because Brian actually brought baby pictures. So this is Brian. Hey, he wants to start from the beginning, right? So that
Well, I had to.
So there's a baby picture right there of Brian, probably still in Chicago, hadn't made the move to Massachusetts yet. So there's the little guy, and I like this picture right here. We're gonna put this one up here. This is Brian and his grandfather, of course, growing up back in Chicago. So obviously you don't have any memories of this, but what do you remember about the Windy City? Different than Massachusetts?
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Except for the wintertime. It gets cold
Yeah, it's
there
even
like
worse.
it gets cold
It's
here.
even worse there than it is here.
I think so.
Yeah.
The wind coming off the lake can really get right into your spine.
Right.
What do I remember most? I remember one time with my father going to a White Sox Yankee game.
Mm-hmm.
I remember our spotted dog, Cindy, Dalmatian, riding on a fire engine. Remember the grandfather, grandmother, they weren't together at any time that I was around.
maybe that was a good thing, right?
Well, I don't know. You'd have to ask them, but you can't. So.
So then, you know, then you moved to Massachusetts and you played high school football.
I did.
So look at this guy right here, number 40, playing what? Defense, offense?
That's offense.
Yeah?
That was my junior
What position
year.
did you play?
Halfback in that particular picture. I was also special teams. Played a little defense,
Yeah.
but mostly offense, halfback and receiver.
Did you enjoy your high school football experience?
Excellent.
Without a doubt. We got another picture here.
It helped me get through high school.
I think you're carrying the ball in this one.
Yeah, I was getting ready to catch it in the other one, but yeah.
Sounds like you were a main guy there.
I don't know that I want to say the main guy, but I had enough action.
And there's number 40, what is that, the cafeteria?
That's the cafeteria during study hall.
All right. Oh, study hall.
Yeah.
So you were studying at that time.
Does it look like I was studying? The guy who's sitting to my left, he was the other halfback. Back in those days, he had 3 running backs
Oh, yeah,
in
right.
the backfield.
Yeah.
And the woman to my right is one of the cheerleaders.
All right. Well, it's always a good thing to have a cheerleader
Oh,
sitting by, right?
yeah.
Isn't that's
Yeah, in fact, I'm still friends with those.
Are
those
you?
two.
Yeah. Awesome. Now we move on. I don't know when this picture was taken, but I really like this picture. This is Brian, probably, I don't know, what, 70s maybe? You know
Late
what I call
70s,
this?
early 80s.
I call this the Reggie Jackson look. There's something about this picture I thought. He's got the glasses, the hair. This is the Reggie look right here.
It is. I'm going to guess that's in the 1980s.
Maybe early 80s.
Because of the
okay.
tie.
All right, right. Well, I was telling you before, I grew up a Red Sox fan and never liked Reggie Jackson because Reggie Jackson always killed the Red Sox. And he'd hit these big home runs, and then he'd go into this kind of cocky home run trot. And I just couldn't stand it. But one day, a friend of mine was living on Long Island. I went out there. He said, hey, let's go see the Yankees. I go to Yankee Stadium. Up comes Reggie Jackson, Hall of Famer. So I'm like, oh, this is great. hits a home run in the upper deck. So what do? Standing ovation. The whole place is going, Reggie, and I just got caught up in the whole thing.
Sure.
And just for that one moment, I forgot that I was a Red Sox fan, and but it was fantastic.
Can you imagine being in Yankee Stadium
Yeah.
and saying, boo?
Yeah,
What do you think would have happened?
Yeah, no, I didn't really want to.
How many Budweisers?
So you talk about how you were a 3.5-decade veteran of radio. I went on the WBSM website, just try to snoop around and do a little, what do they call that, creeping that. And it is
You
3.5.
can call it research.
Yeah, I'm going to call it research. So that's a long time in radio. How did you end up here in New Bedford with WBSM after all the various
Great
stops
question.
that you made? Yeah.
I was working on the Cape. My then wife, who was the girlfriend that went up to Seattle with me, she was transferred to Lincoln, Rhode Island. Dartmouth was pretty much the in-between for her trip and my trip.
Right.
So we settled in Dartmouth.
That's where you are now.
No.
Okay.
I live in a motorhome.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
I'm going to get to that.
I live,
I like that idea.
but we
actually.
bought a house in Dartmouth,
Okay.
and then the marriage went sour,
Okay.
and so I always wanted to live in a motorhome.
So that's how you ended up with WBSM, because you picked a
let's
spot in
see.
the middle,
I was
and then you figured,
actually I was working at WBSM while I was also working for Sirius XM.
Oh, no kidding. You work for Sirius?
Yes,
Wow.
that was one of the beginning. In fact, my show was delayed by a week because of 9/11.
Oh, did you do the classic rock on the Sirius?
No, I was doing talk at that
No
time.
kidding.
I've been doing talk steadily since 1999.
Wow. Do you enjoy the talk more than playing music and all that? Yes, more interaction?
Well,
Depends, right?
I'm going to say more than the news, and I love news. But every once in a while, I could see myself doing a rock show. I don't know that I'd want to do it every week, and I certainly wouldn't want to do it every day,
Right.
where I can do the talk every day.
Yeah, right. And now you did some time in news. What did you like about that? Did you like it?
Loved it. I loved the hours, for one thing, because most of the time I was doing early mornings, and I'm an early riser.
Right.
So I loved that. I loved being able to interview all kinds of people, talk to folks, banter with the morning host, and then get out of Dodge.
Right. Get in early and get out early.
Exactly. And there are always some great assignments.
Right, exactly. So you're out there digging for the story and putting it together and presenting it on the air and stuff
Exactly.
like that.
And
Pretty
it was-
exciting depending on what's going
It was. And it was also my introduction to television. When I was in Monterey, people heard me on the radio. I was on the #1 station. So people were used to hearing me, and I had 2 offers to do television. I took the second one, and I did that until I could get back in the radio.
All right, so you did television news?
Yeah.
I see one of those guys. I'm standing
reporting.
here with the fire in the background, and let's go live to the scene and that whole thing.
Pretty much. Yeah, I was a reporter.
So how long did you do that?
Not long.
No?
No, I itched to get back in the
Yeah,
radio.
you didn't like that too much?
It's not that I didn't like it. I love radio.
Better, yeah, right.
I just love radio. There's an intimacy to the whole type of format. It's one-to-one.
Right. Well, tell me about your show here on WBSM, Brian's Beat. It's a 2-hour show, I believe, and you really get to interact with the citizens of the New Bedford area. And there's a lot of passionate people. They call in, depending on what the issue is. You can hear the passion in their voices, and of course, you as the host get to give your opinion and try to lead the callers through. What's that like? You feel a connection with your listeners?
Absolutely. Of all the different places that I've worked, Cape Cod, Boston, California, Seattle, Sirius XM, the WBSM listener is the most passionate listener that I've dealt with on a regular basis. They certainly love the local issue, but they know enough about what's happening statewide and nationally. So as much as we are a local radio station, Paul, I don't have to stick to just local issues.
Right.
So,
you can
yeah,
talk about anything.
You could, and they can respond to just about anything. That's what makes the give and take is what makes it.
Right. Do you like talking about the local stuff better, or does it not matter?
I like to talk about what's hot. I don't care if it's local, national, international, state. I like to talk about what's hot. You talked, do I want to do top 40 music radio? No, but I don't mind doing top 40 talk.
Yeah, right. The top 40 issues
Right.
that are in front of the
Exactly.
people right now. Well, one of the things people have talked about over the years is the political discourse has been probably a little bit more divisive in the last 10 or 15 years, and people do call up and they have very strong opinions one way or the other. Obviously, you as the host obviously can give your opinion too. So how do you kind of guide the show so that different points of view are being presented as the callers are coming in, or do you just kind of let the callers take the show the way it's going to go?
I let the caller say pretty much what they want to say, keep it clean, keep it legal,
Right.
and keep on topic. There are times where I don't care what the topic is. Seldomly. I do a 2-hour show.
Right.
To me, if I can't prepare for 2 hours, I shouldn't be sitting in the seat.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a caller today who wanted to talk about something he was pretty sure I was going to talk about tomorrow. And I had to stop him. I said, look, we're talking about something else. He got upset and hung up. That happens.
Maybe you'll tune in tomorrow.
Well, maybe he will. Maybe I won't talk about it. But
Well, because you have 2 hours today and 2 hours tomorrow, so rather than jump around, you can get into a topic today. You still have plenty of time to deal with the other one tomorrow, I would think.
exactly. Well, tomorrow, as we're recording today on a Tuesday,
Yes.
tomorrow is my educational focus, and it deals with education that he wanted to talk about.
Right.
So yeah.
Now you talk about preparation. 2 hours, it doesn't sound like a lot, but then when you think about 2 hours, that's a pretty hefty amount of time that you have to fill. So again, a lot of it's filled with the callers that are calling in. They'll take the conversation in various directions depending on what you're talking about. But probably the listener doesn't think about the preparation that the host has to go through. What kind of preparation does the host go through?
Listen, a couple of my favorite bus drivers, I love to ride Serta, first of all. They are astonished that I only work 2 hours. And I'll say, yeah, you hear me for 2 hours.
Right.
But there's a lot of preparation. Oh, I can talk for 2 hours. I know you can talk for 2 hours. I'm listening to you on the bus. But to answer your question, I will put in anywhere between 2 to 4 hours to plan 1 hour of talk, except for Mondays, which is On Your Mind Monday. And there's a lot of stuff that happened over the weekend, and I'm able to throw it in. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm sitting there with pen and paper the whole time. I could be riding, go back to the Serta bus. I could be riding on the bus, and I'll notice something. I say, you know what?
That's a good topic.
That's a good topic. And what I'll do is I'll get on my phone. Cell phones are great. You don't need to talk on them anymore.
Yeah, no. You
Get on the phone.
You can dictate into them too.
That's right. I can dictate. But what I do is I send an email to myself as a reminder I want to talk, because otherwise I'll lose it in my head.
Yeah, you'll forget about
Yeah.
it. So that much preparation for 1 hour. So do you do it the same day, the day before, the night before? Are you prepping all the time?
I think that's the better way of saying it.
Yeah, you're kind of always thinking
prepping
about
doesn't
it.
stop.
Right.
But at the same time, it's not a set time. It's not always ongoing. And I'm always at least an hour and a half before the show,
Right, really
sitting there getting ready.
tying up the loose ends, kind
Yeah.
of speak. And then, of course, you could be thinking about something the night before, and then 2 hours before the show, something breaks, and then all of a sudden,
It
everybody
happens.
wants to talk about the new topic, right?
Mhm.
That happens a lot, I imagine.
Well, the good thing about that, since everybody knows something has happened, you don't have to prep as much. They have an idea of what's going on. We've got a great news staff.
Yeah, right.
So they've already fed them that information.
Yeah.
You've got Phil and his cup of coffee, and he's talked about it for a bit. So I'm able to just go on, wham bam, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, and you're right into it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you drove a cab for a period of time, obviously. Brian, the cab driver, not
Yeah.
too hard to figure out that you did drive a cab. Was that just around here, or did you do that in other locations as well?
First time that I did it for a few weeks. Again, after you get booted out of radio for some reason, you have to find something. And it was between Cape Cod and finally moving up to Middlebury, Vermont, of
Right.
all places. I drove a cab, Hyannis Taxi, for about 6 weeks. But that was it. And then it was after divorce and whatnot, and the company that ran us through Sirius XM was starting to go belly up. So I needed to pick up some quick cash. I asked, you guys need drivers? And they said, yeah.
And then you did it for a while, right? How long did you do it?
2009 to 2015.
Yeah, right. And I know we'll mention it briefly here. A colleague of yours was actually shot and killed.
Yeah.
And I remember you being interviewed on television, knew him well and so forth, and pretty scary, for that to happen. And same field as you were in at the time,
That was my exit strategy from driving cab.
Yeah.
I was going to actually leave at the end of January of 2016.
Right.
I ended up getting into an accident a couple of days before Christmas in 2015, and so that was it.
That was the end of that.
Yeah.
And I remember a few years ago, I don't know how long ago this was, it probably had to be maybe 20 years ago, they had a mayor's race here, and it was one of those mayor's races where, I think it was when Mayor Markey left, and then you had like about 12 people running in the primary. And there were so many people, but one of them was a cab driver, and, it wasn't somebody that was, known politically, so it was a long shot, but they asked him, well, why are you running for office? What do you know about politics? He said, well, I drive to the north end, they tell me what's going on. I drive to the south end, they tell me what's going on right now. So I thought, that's a pretty good, I love that answer. I thought that was a great answer. But actually, you driving around in the cab to do a talk show, I'm sure you get a lot of ideas from people that are talking, because a lot of times somebody gets in and you start shooting the breeze and you're going to get a feel for what's going on, right?
Yes. Or, as I found out for quite some time, people heard me earlier and they were disagreeing with me.
Oh, they didn't like what you said.
Or agreeing, either way. Or you should talk about this. You are absolutely right, Paul.
Right.
People, like I say, these folks are passionate.
Right.
And it didn't take long. They would look at the picture on the website. Oh, he's my cab driver. And so, yes, without a doubt.
Well, so if somebody calls up, do you like it better when the caller disagrees with you or agrees with you, or it doesn't matter? Because if you have people from different points of view, sometimes it can make more interesting radio. On the other hand, sometimes people arguing back and forth can be a little, can go the other way too.
That's the best.
You like it the best, yeah, right? So if you disagree with the caller, it's actually better in a way for you, right? Because then you can say, well, wait a minute, how about this?
I had one of those today.
Yeah.
It wasn't that bad, but I had one today. I don't mind. We all have opinions.
Yes.
And that's what makes talk radio great.
Yeah.
As long as you're not picking on me or
Right.
some subject person for something that's out of the realm of the discussion, I don't care.
Yeah,
I
right.
think it's great.
Yeah. And again, you got to keep it like, somebody says something like you don't know what you're talking about or something like that. That can be, you know what I mean? You got to kind of keep it, hey, look, I disagree with you, here's why kind of thing, But people,
Well,
people get more passionate than
you're
that.
You're making it sound nice. Most of the time,
Yeah,
it's
right.
not that nice.
Yeah, it's more like,
You son of a...
yeah, you don't know what you're talking about. Father of a couple of sons, I see.
I am,
Yeah.
yes.
That must be obviously enjoyable. I'm a father of 2 sons also,
See?
so it's a wonderful thing,
Well, let's see. I think our youngest graduated together from Dartmouth High.
Oh, is that right? One of mine graduated in 2010. The other one was 2013.
Right.
So
2011 was.
Oh,
was-
right. Oh,
was,
good.
Those are the two that were running around like bees.
Oh, yeah, they
on
were.
the-
So
the
they're all
soccer
doing
field.
well, I imagine. So good for them.
One is the bee. He is a teacher in Falmouth,
Oh, fantastic.
and the other one works. I don't get some of this stuff. Social media
Oh,
with companies in Ireland and San Francisco and whatnot, but that's up in Framingham.
yeah, right.
that
Good
he
for
does
him.
that.
Now, I see that you have this Winnebago.
I do.
You live in the Winnebago?
Love it.
The thing is a Winnebago Super Chief. So that's where you live.
I do.
Now, the plan is, have you done it yet? You put a studio in the Winnebago?
It's been taken down.
Oh, you had it before?
I had one in there before.
Did you ever do a show on BSM from there?
Not for BSM.
Okay, all right. So you're working on that? You have to talk to the management and say, hey, can I drive
Management's
around?
all for it.
Yeah, well, I would think that if you had
Management wanted me to do it out of the cab. Don't laugh. The cab company wanted me to do it out of the
Hey,
cab.
here's Brian, the cab driver, coming to you from the cab.
Yeah.
That'd be
I
great.
mean, I think it would be.
Yeah, then you could talk to people on the street and stuff like that. But this thing with the Winnebago, I mean, obviously you could travel around just the local area, and you could drive up to the Feast and park out there. You can go down here, but then you could also, I suppose, go around New England, or go far away or whatever? Like, what do you have a plan? Do you have a thought that what you want to do?
I
with
have
that?
a plan. I haven't released the plan yet.
You haven't released the plan yet.
I haven't released
You
the
could break it
plan.
right here on your Bedford Connection.
I could, but I won't. I feel that I should break it in front of my sons,
Right.
and then my radio listeners, if they're
Right.
interested, the TV. There are a whole bunch of people that need to be hammered in. No. Travel is definitely in the picture.
Right. Do you like traveling?
Love traveling. I've went out to California, Washington, Mexico. I've done shows from Mexico, Belize, and the Bahamas. And I want to do more of that.
Some of those places sounds like they'd be a great spot to do a show from.
Oh, unbelievable.
But you're not going to get the Winnebago to the Bahamas, are you?
I think, well, there are enough holes that it would sink, but I think I could probably take an oar and go like that. If you ever fly from Fort Lauderdale over to Grand Bahama Island, by the time you get up, it's time to come down. It's
Yeah,
only
exactly.
It's only about 17 miles.
I think I saw in your resume here that you preach gospel a little bit. Did you do that? You still do
Gospel?
that? Yeah. Is that what? Did I read that right?
No, I don't
No,
think
that's
so.
all right.
No.
All right. Wait a minute. Let me
My,
cross that out a little bit. All right. Here we
my
go.
great uncle
Yeah.
was a minister.
Okay.
My uncle was also a minister.
All right. All right. Well.
And they talked me out of never wanting to be doing that gospel.
All right. So we'll cross that one out.
Okay.
That one didn't quite make it through the
The
thing there.
screeners.
The screeners. So your plans are stay at WBSM, keep doing what you're doing.
In fact, I picked up another show on Saturday.
Right, the early morning one. Yes, I did
yeah.
hear you there. And I thought,
like
wow.
that show.
Yeah, well, the radio first thing in the morning is kind of where it's at. I think people getting
Always.
up there. That's supposed to be the drive time. Although Saturday a little different.
It
but
is
still,
different.
people are waking up and they put the radio on and get the news and all that. So you
To be
started what?
honest with
You
you?
start at 6.
I start at 6
Yeah.
to 9 on Saturday. But to be perfectly honest with you, I have wanted that Saturday morning shift going back to 2009. Lynn Poyant
Right, it goes back.
had it, right? And then Taylor Cormier
Right.
had it, and then Tim Weisberg.
So you had to wait for the opening.
Yeah, and it's funny. I ended up taking the weekday shift, and when Tim Weisberg was going to go over to news, I pounced on that.
Yeah,
shift.
no, and I think it's a good time slot.
I
And,
love it.
You got to get up at what, about 5 in the morning or something?
I'm long
But
up
you don't care
before
about that? That's
I
okay.
get in there around 4. Yeah.
Then you can
between
kind of
4 and
sum up the
4:30.
week and get everybody ready for
It
the
is.
weekend.
Well, and it's easy to sum up the week when you've already done 5 days of shows.
Yeah, right.
Which one do I want to choose from?
Well, Brian, we really appreciate you stopping by here in New Bedford
That's
Connections.
it?
It's a half an hour. This isn't a 2-hour thing. Like, see, this is like nothing to you, right?
Oh.
2 hours is like this is a half an hour.
Well, you need more time.
Exactly right. Thank you for stopping by. Keep up the good work
Thank
over
you.
there at WBSM.
I appreciate
and I'm
it
glad,
very
glad
much.
you're enjoying your time over there.
I am.
All right, Brian Thomas, Brian's Beat, Brian the cab driver, all of the above has been our guest this time on New Bedford Connections, and you can check out New Bedford Connections at the New Bedford Connections YouTube channel if you want to see some of the other shows that we've done. I'm Paul Santos. We'll see you next time on New Bedford Connections.